Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
Welcome once again to Wednesday Night Satsang. So glad you're here. As God, the artist of your soul, do you allow yourself to be molded and shaped by the divine within you? Something we can be present to today. I'm particularly present to that because today is my birthday, so you're part of my birthday party, probably mostly unintentionally, but this is definitely way more people than we would normally have together in COVID days with you being online, so I'm taking advantage of that and feeling very grateful to be here 45 years and celebrating every year and the milestones and the good and the blessings. I spoke to Reverend Sheila, and she reminded me that your birthday is your new year, that it is a new day and it's a way to set your intentions for the next year, that it's a powerful day. And so I want to share that power. If there's any power in this day for me, I'm sharing it with you all so that we can come into a creative energy of what's new, what is arising within us that we want to create, because we always have that potential to open up to that which is beyond our current experience, that is wanting to be expressed and brought forward. To use the power of imagination, which is one of our very divine faculties, to draw ideas from infinite potential and say Happy New You as we move into a new experience of our own creation. So I took some time to write down my intentions for the next year this morning, and it was a wonderful way to start my birthday. So I'm grateful, Reverend Sheila, for that suggestion and celebrating with me in that way. So my first question for you for our talk back is, what would you create new in your life today? So I want to hear about what is coming forth in you. If you'll put that in the comments so we can hear about it when we get to the talk back section of our time together this evening, just begin to go ahead and put that in. What would you create new in your life today? And allow it to arise from that spaciousness that we explored in our time of meditation together, which we're still feeling the effects of that, allowing us to be more present. When I go back through my life, as I consider myself as being molded and shaped by God, I can go back, and you can go back too, and you can see the finite events of your life that all molded and shaped you, right? Your different experiences, and you can trace them all the way back to the day that you were born. And I can even trace back to stories I heard of my mom's pregnancy with me, but beyond that is a mystery of who I was before I incarnated into this form. I think about it, and I consider that before I took physical form, I was infinite potential, a point in consciousness and the expression of God. And what were you before you took your physical form? You were infinite potential. You had the ability to be molded and shaped and formed in whatever way you chose to express your divine qualities in the life that you led. And so when we come back to that truth, I believe we can see our infinite possibilities for molding and shaping our lives as we go forward, that we are so much more than the past experiences that we have, which are memories. They have no form. It is the now where we have the potential to create anew. In meditation, there's this concept of beginner's mind in Buddhist practice, that we want to cultivate beginner's mind, that we always come into our practice new, noticing things new, rather than bringing it, well, when I meditate, it feels like this, it looks like this, and kind of going at it by routine, but with that freshness, without preconceived notions. And when we let go of all that we think we are, all that we think we know, we can really open to the truth of all that we really are. And I came to Unity, I was told that you're a child of God. And I came to understand that as I moved through my spiritual path, and understanding that, yes, we are creations of God. We are adult children rather than immature, incapable. That we are adult children and that we are fully endowed with all of the qualities of God within us. And as adults, we have the power to choose if we're going to use the truth within us to express, or if we live from the effects of our experiences, outer conditions that we're reacting to, rather than coming from within out. I want to share with you this piece of the Desiderata by Max Ehrmann. It says, "You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should." And so that can be challenging to be aware of that. The universe is unfolding as it should. Well, it doesn't appear to be that way. With the conditions that are going on in my life and everyone's life in the world and politics, or whatever situations you might call up to feel that it's not unfolding as it should. So how can we shift to the awareness of truth, to see the divine perfection in all things? So we were formed, our mind, our consciousness, formed out of divine mind. Charles Fillmore teaches that, or he used to teach that, if you study your own mind, you will discover God mind, because God mind is inherent within your own mind, and we discover it through our meditation practice. That is the purpose. That is my purpose for being a minister, for being here, is that this discovery of that I am so much more than my life conditions, that I am infinite, that there is infinite potential within me, that my true nature is divine, is the most amazing realization of my life, and that it's my intention to share that truth. And especially I think of it on my birthday, that I'm wanting to be on purpose with that, because that is one of the greatest truths that I know, and want to continue to pass that along, to remind us, because I think we all know, certainly at a deep level, and we just keep needing to be reminded. I do as well. So being aware of God mind within my mind, first, it's an idea that gives me hope. And as I realize it as truth on a deep level, that it moves into faith, and it becomes that by which I live. So I'm wondering, about the experience of meditation and how we get in touch with divine ideas, and we can delight and feel the joy and expansive nature of that truth in our being, of seeing life in its wholeness and oneness. But what about the things that get us down, that tick us off, that bother us, that give us pain and suffering and are challenging? Is it possible to find delight even in those things? And this is what Pema Chodron addresses in this chapter of When Things Fall Apart. The title of the chapter is Secret Oral Instructions. I thought that was interesting, but I wasn't sure I wanted to put that out there as my title, so I went with The Truth Within, because I believe that that's what she's speaking to, that these oral instructions are arising from the truth within you. And are they a secret? Are they mysterious? Well, they can seem elusive when we don't have a practice, when we're going through life, responding to stimulus around us, moving in our regular patterns. When we open up to that inner awareness, then they arise and they become known. So my second question for you this evening to share in the comments now, you can go ahead and start thinking about it, type it in when you're ready, is how do you find delight in the things that get you down? Share with us. Well, we want to know. We want to know because it's going to help us all and help us all start thinking in that way of finding delight in the things that get you down. And I'm going to speak to that as we go forward. So we know that it can be easy to see the good when we're sitting in meditation, when we're in that open space. And it can be more challenging when the rubber meets the road with the difficulties and struggles in our lives. This is what Pema Chodron calls the squeeze. When we get in the squeeze, and she describes the squeeze as the perplexing tension between our aspirations and the reality of feeling tired, hungry, stressed out, afraid, bored, angry, or whatever we experience in any given moment of our life. I know when I get particularly hungry, I can get cranky and I can fall away from my awareness of truth. So different things can squeeze us and keep us in that tension. She shares this story about a man named Naropa. He is an 11th century Indian yogi, and he was walking down the street one day holding a sacred text, and he ran into an old hag, as she describes the woman, old hag on the street. And she comes up to him, and she knows that he's one of the greatest Buddhist scholars in India. And she asked him if he understood the words in the book that he carried. And he said yes, and she danced and she laughed with glee. She was so happy. And then she asked him another question. She asked if he understood the meaning of the words in the book that he carried. And she was so pleased with his answer before that, again, he said yes. But her response was different this time. This time she became enraged, and she yelled at him. She called him a hypocrite and a liar. And the story is interesting because it says Naropa knew she had his number, that indeed he only understood the words. He taught from the words, from an intellectual awareness of this truth, and that he hadn't fully understood and realized the truth of the profound inner meaning of the teachings that he could expound upon so clearly and teach so fluently. He didn't really know them at the depth of his being until he went out in search of a teacher, this great teacher, in search of another teacher, seeking to find the meaning behind the words, and he continually found himself in the squeeze, in that tension. He knew about compassion, but when he saw a dog that was covered in lice and lying dirty on the road, he turned a blind eye to the dog. He wanted to honor his teacher, and he knew about non-judgment and non-attachment. However, when his teacher asked him to do something that he didn't feel like doing, he refused. We're continually finding ourselves like Naropa in this squeeze. It can be uncomfortable, it can be embarrassing. And this is where we tend to give up and walk away. And we feel like, well, spirituality should be easy, it should just flow, and this feels like work, and it's just not working for me, and maybe it's just not for me. And we like the teachings when we felt blissful and inspired and peaceful. But what about when it feels like a burden to meditate? When you're tired, you're not feeling it, doesn't fit in your day, the practice is not living up to your expectations. The people in your spiritual community you find annoying, or they're a mess, and even your teacher might be questionable. That's all experiences of the squeeze. Pema says this is the point where we can really learn something. It's something to celebrate, to get excited about. If you're feeling the squeeze in your spiritual practice, we're getting uncomfortable. And she invites us to notice when we are caught up with both the upliftedness of our ideas that have come forth through our practice and the rawness of what's happening in our experience right before our eyes, the rawness of what people are, how people are suffering or in conflict or violence, how that's showing up in us and the people around us in our relationships. She says this is a very fruitful place, so we can get excited about this. If you're feeling this, stay engaged, stay keyed in to your practice. We have a natural human tendency, and we want to notice when situations lead us to become small-minded, to paint ourselves as a victim, to become pathetic and hopeless, and to recognize that at this point, that even at this juncture, at this struggle, that our minds could be bigger. It could be bigger. And that's what our meditation practice was about today, was finding spaciousness even in everything that's happening. We can experience expansiveness and the bigness, a bigger consciousness, instead of beating ourselves up or pointing the finger at others, judging others, putting that energy out to other people. We could just be there in the rawness, like a newborn baby, naked to the world in all of our vulnerability of all the things that people may have said about us, have done in our lives, the mistakes we've made in our lives, the things that we're not proud of, the things we could have been doing, we didn't do, and all that, and just be with that. Because our tendency, and it's encouraged in our culture, is to run away from it. To get away, I don't want that. I don't want to be in that vulnerable, tender, uncomfortable place. I want to escape. There's so many opportunities to escape that. And this teaching says to be with that place where we feel there's no ground to stand on. That groundlessness is where we learn the meaning of those concepts and words that we hear about in our spiritual teachings, in our practice, in that place of groundlessness. Staying with it, not running away, and seeing it as fortunate, as a blessing, because that is that place where we get to grow up spiritually, where we get to mature out of being a child of God to being an adult child, fully aware of our endowment of our divine faculties and abilities and the wisdom that is inherent within us. Right when we feel exposed, we are being born into new life. When we stay with the nowness, we discover the truth within. I love this from Thich Nhat Hanh. He said, "No mud, no lotus." you want the lotus flower, you got to have the mud. We need to experience darkness to discover the light. That is our natural process on the spiritual path. This teaching that Naropa received from his teacher, Tilopa, was to look at life just as it is and to experience it fully, not good, not bad, but unconditioned and ordinary. And that when we can be with that, when we can be with all that is, recognizing it as an ordinary part of the total experience of being human, we can be brave in discovering the truth within us and the truth that lies in all experiences. Namaste.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.